I have my book in my hand. Do you have your book in your hand? This book, The Manager's First Aid Kit. We're looking at a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. This is a great book to have. And it's a great book to have not just for managers, supervisors, all of you in some way who have to deal with people and processes, but it's also a great book for you, the individual as well, a parent, a caregiver, someone in that position as well. You can learn so much from this. Now, last week, we took some time looking at emotional intelligence with the words success in the knowledge economy comes to those who know themselves, their strengths, their values, and how they best perform. So all week last week in our first chapter, we looked a little bit at self-awareness. Yes, self-awareness, self-management, and also social awareness. And those are 3 points in which I hope you took some time to think it through. Assess yourself. Assess how you manage yourself. And then what do people say about you? What is your awareness of how you're perceived by others as well? All of those things are so critical. Joining us this morning, the lady of the day, our coach, our talent development specialist, master trainer, change practitioner, and the author of the book, Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, Joan Underwood. Joan, good morning to you.
And good morning to you as well, Pearson. It's good to be with you again this week.
Oh, I am beaming brightly because I'm happy again to be with you today as well. So much we could reflect on. I hope that people took the time to get the book, one, and to spend time in reflection as well on their self-awareness, their own management of self, and also their social awareness. But in all of this, and I like the way you tied the next chapter, which looks at emotional agility, you say effective leaders are mindful of their inner experience, but are not caught up in them. And so today we're looking at how we manage our thoughts and our emotions. How agile are we at being able to come to the right conclusion or the best conclusion, right?
And the best course of action.
Correct. So where do we start in breaking this down so that we understand better our emotions and how we manage those thoughts and the processes so we come to the best course of action?
Okay. So the first paradigm that I'd like to emphasize is that emotions provide information, not directions. So, for example, if I'm coming on with you this morning and I'm checking on my emotions and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious. No, that anxiety doesn't direct and determine how I show up when I engage you, but I can get information from it. So I approach the exploration of the emotions with curiosity. Yeah. Why exactly are you feeling anxious? Well, because this is so important and I really do want to do a good job. And so the anxiety is around the uncertainty and whether or not I'm going to show up in the best possible way. Now, that's not instruction to me to come and be shaking, but rather I then say to myself, okay, based on your value system and what you want to accomplish, who do you need to be during this interview? How do you need to behave during this interview so that you do give a good representation? So again, emotions give us information, not directions. Same thing with anger. All right. So someone says or does something to you and you get angry about it. Now that anger can be communicating that you're hurt, that you're upset, that you're offended. It can be communicating so many things, but you do not have to let it dictate how you respond. And notice I say respond, because that's what emotional agility is about. A response as opposed to a reaction. And what's the difference? Choice.
You talk a lot in the book about the amygdala hijack, and it's so true. And that's where you're going to the emotion and the response and the reaction as well. Because oftentimes situations will occur, but we cannot let those situations or those emotions hijack the outcome, hijack our reaction, hijack our response as well. And so part of it is knowing and being certain what it is, but also being responsible enough and responsive enough to say, I now can actually take control of myself and know better how to respond so I have a better outcome and not let the hijack take control of us.
Exactly. And let's open up that discussion about the hijack. So people may have heard of the fight or flight reaction that we have. And this goes back to ancient times when, we were hanging out with the animals and to protect ourselves. So if we saw someone who had us in their food chain, we knew that, listen, it's time to get out of here. So I need to flee. Now, this didn't have to be a thought out process. It happened instinctually.
Yes.
Okay, so our primitive brain did that to ensure that we were able to survive. Now, things have evolved since then. We're not in the physical danger, but for our emotions, we feel as if we're in danger. So our body reacts in the same way. I want to get away from this stimulus, from this threat. Right. So I can either run away or I can fight it, or sometimes we even freeze because, we get so afraid that we can't do anything. What we're saying is that we need to introduce not our primitive brain, but our thinking brain into the occasion, so that instead of just having that triggered response, that hijacked response, we can have a reasoned response and decide how we show up in the given context.
And I'm glad you said it in that way, because often the parents who are watching who have a teenager, be it the boy or the girl, who will challenge them. And so your reaction sometimes is to flare up or fight back. I am the boss in here. You will either do as I say or you will leave. Or you can cower into the corner and say, all right, you're bigger than me. I am not going to fight you now. And therefore, they now assume control over the situation. So your whole emotions are offset, literally, whether it is to fight or to fly away from. And that's where you're saying, no, we have to use our minds now. We have to use that emotional intelligence, that emotional agility to be able to respond in situations like that. And I use that example because I really want this book to be applied not just to the workplace, but to the home. The home is also an environment where this book works. This book works. I know you see the big black word there, managers, and you think that's in the office. Your office is also sometimes at home. How do you manage yourself in that home environment? And so let's hit that part of the brain that helps us to be able to navigate through this. And you go on then to share with us 4 steps to emotional agility. Let's walk through those with everybody today.
All right. So since you have the book in front of you,
yes,
give me the first step. Yes.
The first step you say here is to notice when you've been hooked or triggered by your thoughts and feelings. To notice it when that happens. And that calls for a little bit of emotional maturity.
Exactly, because some persons are not sufficiently self-aware to be able to identify their feelings as they experience them. Interestingly, Pearson, after we got off air last week, I mean, within a few minutes of that, I got a phone call from a gentleman, and he only gave me his first name, so nobody can trace him. So he identified himself as Errol, and he shared with me an experience where he had been hijacked. He worked in the hospitality sector, and there was a visitor. Unfortunately, racist people get passports and they travel too. Yes. And sometimes they end up on our shores. And there was an incident where the gentleman was quite disrespectful and, in fact, assaulted him, kicked him. Okay. And so he got triggered. And so he wanted to relay the story to me and to find out if I thought he was wrong because he reciprocated and gave the tourist back exactly what he had meted out himself. Right? So here's the thing. I said, I can't judge whether you were right or wrong because that's a decision for you to make based on your value system. The thing is, did you make a conscious decision to do it, or were you hijacked and merely reacted and then regretted it afterwards? So the first thing is identify emotion that you're experiencing. So that's step 1. Step 2.
Label your thoughts and emotions. Give label to them, your thoughts and emotions. How do we do that?
All right. So something happens, and the way I'm describing it, it may sound as if it takes a long time to happen. But as you practice this, it becomes something that happens very quickly. But when you start out, it will take you a moment to actually do it. So there is this trigger event. Take the time to say, what am I feeling right now? Am I offended? Am I hurt? Am I aggravated? Am I whatever it is? Put a name on it. so that that helps with the self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. And helps with the response, because if my response, my label is I'm angry right now, it might very well mean that I need to calm down before I respond. If I'm not angry right now, I might very well be able now to clearly identify my path of action and to be able now to begin sooner rather than later. So
absolutely,
I got you. I'm with you. I hope everybody's
following
along. Number 3, it says here, accept your thoughts and emotions by acknowledging them and exploring them from a position of curiosity. Huh?
Okay. Again, they're not directions, they're information. And what do you do? I mean, in your line of work, what do you do when you get information? You analyze it.
Yes.
Not so.
Yes.
Okay. So what is this telling me? All right. So be curious about the emotions. See what it's seeking to communicate to you coming from within you. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we haven't acted yet. All of this is internal work.
Right.
Then comes the next step.
Act on your values. Act on your values. Now, mind you, everyone's value system is not the same.
Yes. Which is why when Errol asked me that question, I declined to give an answer, because his value system may be quite different. Yes. So if, for example, his value system, one of his core values is fairness, right? Then he may say, well, you kick me, I have to kick you back. That's only fair. So if my value system is, for example, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Right. I don't want anybody to kick me, so I'm not going to go around kicking anyone. Right? And I'm not judging. I'm saying make your decision based on your value system.
I think also you have to be mindful of the consequences, because if you haven't considered the consequences, then you're going to find yourself in a roller coaster, constantly having to react. Not respond, react. And that's the whole point here. We're saying know the difference between reacting and how to respond and responding. And this chapter puts us squarely into that, to awaken our consciousness, awaken our emotional spaces so that we're far more agile in defining how we feel, labeling how we feel, acknowledging what it is that we feel, and then using our value system to respond, understanding that there is going to be an equal reaction to how we respond. So know the consequences, measure them very carefully, and plan ahead and be prepared to deal with the situation as well. This is a lot in this chapter.
I just want to add one thing in terms of reaction versus response.
Yes.
Because you may choose to do the same thing that you would have done if you just did.
Yes.
What's the difference? It's a conscious decision that you have made. Yes. And so, as you say, you've weighed the consequences and you've decided, no, I'm going to do this, and I will deal with whatever comes afterwards.
This is such a rich chapter, ladies and gentlemen. It is so powerful. Of course, every chapter always ends with a moment of self-reflection, how we can become emotionally agile, and how emotionally agile are we? And you will get it at the end of the chapter. Now, next week, God's Spare Life, I want to look at cultivating those winning habits as well. You know, this is such a journey, folks. I want to encourage you. Remember, you can order your book. You can go to Days Bookstore to pick up a copy of the book, purchase it. It's right there on your screen. That's the book. Look for it. It looks just like that. Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges by Joan Underwood. Or you can go to the website utdsinc.com. utdsinc.com. It's also available on Amazon. If you're anywhere across the world, you can order your book via Amazon and it will be delivered to you. And Joan, I can't wait for where else we go in this journey as we continue to pull from our manager's toolkit to become far more and more effective managers of self, managers of people, processes, and the like as well. Thank you so much again.
Thank you as well. I'll see you next week.
God's Spare Life, you indeed.